Well, if you're paying attention, you learn something new every day. I just discovered that General Motors actually began building electric cars in the 1960s with the Electric Corvair. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. It's great to see you. I did not know this. This is new information I've discovered through some friends on the internet. The 1966 Chevrolet Electrovair. This is the electric Corvair you never knew existed, but General Motors actually have been manufacturing EVs since the 1960s. Now, they're very different to the electric cars that we saw more than 100 years ago, and they're very different to the electric cars that we see today. Chevrolet didn't offer an all-electric production car until the Bolt arrived in 2016. Auto Evolution says that before that, Chevy rolled out the Volt plug-in hybrid, which debuted in 2011. But Chevrolet actually began making electric cars as early as the 1960s. The story of the Electrovair began in 1964 when General Motors built the first Corvair fitted with an electric motor and a battery pack instead of a flat six internal combustion engine. Now, we don't know a whole lot about these battery packs. I mean, what were they? Were they lithium batteries? No, lithium batteries didn't exist at the time. They were, I believe, lead acid. Now, Chevrolet actually revisited this vehicle in 1966. By that time, introduced its second generation compact with a new suspension design to correct the notorious handling problems of the first Corvair. Apparently, General Motors picked the Corvair for its electrification project for two reasons. First, it was the lightest car in its corporate lineup at, well, it's incredibly light, 2,500 pounds, which is 1,134 kilos. Second, the Corvair was a rear-engined car. Very unusual. This made it a perfect candidate to receive an induction motor in the rear and a battery pack in the rather spacious front trunk. So this kind of made the weight distribution work. But Chevrolet also had loads of Corvairs sitting around because sales had plummeted following the publication of Ralph Nader's book, Unsafe at Any Speed, in 1965. Now, Ralph Nader's book said that this vehicle was dangerous, the design made no sense with the engine in the back, the weight distribution was all wrong, and maybe he exaggerated a little bit, but I think he was genuinely right. If you drive one today, you'd be shocked by just how bad it feels. The Electrovair 2 kind of fixed this problem though, having this more even weight distribution. The Electrovair 2, based on a 1966 Monza 4-door hardtop model, looked identical to a regular Corvair inside and out. But the 2.7 litre flat six engine was no longer in the rear atop the rear axle. It was swapped out for an AC electric induction motor. It had 115 horsepower, which is obviously peanuts compared to today's EVs. But for reference, it was more powerful than the internal combustion version with a six-cylinder engine. The gas-powered 1966 Corvair had only 95 horsepower, but you could get a more powerful version that had 140 horsepower. The motor got its energy from a 532 volt silver oxide battery pack mounted under the front hood. It acted as a trunk on the regular Corvair. So yeah, I mean, the front hood was actually used instead of just having empty space, which made it a bit light. The conversion added a lot of weight though. It added 1,000 pounds or 454 kilograms to the car's curb weight, which made the Corvair as heavy as a full-size Chevrolet Impala. But that's still lighter than a Tesla Model S of today, which is around 4,300 pounds or 1,950 kilograms. That said, the Tesla Model S is a significantly bigger vehicle. General Motors claimed that the electrified Corvair needed around 16 seconds to do 0 to 60 miles an hour. It wasn't fast. It was really quite painfully slow if you think about it, but internal combustion cars generally weren't much faster. The EV was actually on par with the base Corvair performance. So even though it was so much heavier than the base Corvair, because it had that extra horsepower and that instant torque from the electric motor, it actually wasn't any slower. So 1,000 pounds actually equated to no performance difference. The drivetrain topped out at 80 miles an hour, 130 kilometers per hour. I mean, you don't really need to go any faster than that. So it was pretty impressive. But it was slower than the production internal combustion version, which could do around 150 kilometers an hour to 174 kilometers per hour, which is 93 to 108 miles per hour, depending on which engine you paid for. Range was fairly limited. The energy density of those batteries, not much is really known, to be honest, about the battery pack that General Motors used, but it's safe to say that the silver oxide batteries were fairly low tech. If you think about it, the range was only 40 to 80 miles, or 64 to 129 kilometers. And that's why this vehicle just didn't really work. It couldn't drive far enough on a single charge. Now, the almost borderline unusable range wasn't the car's only issue. The high-density silver oxide batteries were not only very expensive and heavy, but they wore out after being recharged only 100 times. That's the same problem that solid-state battery packs have today. They don't last all that long. Those batteries then had to be replaced after the Electrovair had done only 4,000 to 8,000 miles. 6,400 miles. That means every 6,400 to 12,900 kilometers, you had to get a new battery pack. And that was going to be expensive. Now, General Motors never planned to make this a full-blown, big-selling production model. So the company was more doing this for a marketing thing rather than actually producing them mainstream. But journalists were pretty shocked. And it certainly did do its intended job, which was to kind of let everyone know General Motors was on the forefront of innovation, even if they hadn't really pulled it off that well. Now, some people believed, as a result of this vehicle, that General Motors would follow up with their work on EVs, make better ones, improve the range, improve the battery packs. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. General Motors kind of decided to just let it fall by the wayside. As the early 1970s brought the first regulations for fuel economy and emissions, automakers began focusing on new technologies for gasoline engines instead of EVs. GM's next venture into electric cars would only come in the late 1980s when the development of the iconic EV1 began. Now, you all know the story of the EV1. General Motors actually ended up destroying all of them and kind of, raising some controversies about that car. Did General Motors try to stop electrification? Was that the reason they destroyed them all? Well, no one really knows. Chevrolet built an electric concept car based on the Chevette hatchback in 1978. It was named the Electrovair and was capable of traveling up to 50 miles at 30 miles per hour. That's 80 kilometers at 48 kilometers per hour. So range there was also pretty poor. Top speed was 53 miles per hour. To be honest, it seems like 10 years later, their EV actually was worse than the previous version. Now, if you want to see this vehicle, you actually can. The Electrovair 2 has been kept and maintained to this day, and it can be viewed on display inside General Motors Renaissance Center in Detroit. Now, I find it all a little bit sad that General Motors didn't take electrification seriously. I think, you never know. If they had have, they could have been like the Tesla of today. They could have really electrified America, as Joe Biden claims. I don't think that happened, but you never know. GM said that they will crush Tesla sales in 2025 when it comes to EVs. I don't see that happening. Do you? Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching.